This time on Ozark Garage, we're talking about the Kanati Mud Hog MT after 5 years of testing. These are Kanati Mud Hog MTs. They're 35 1250 15s. Yes, I'm still running 15-inch wheels. And I've been running these for about 5 years now in a variety of terrain. This video is not sponsored by Kanati in any manner, shape, or form. I paid for these with my own money. Kanati is a brand of green ball tire, which is a US company, but these tires themselves are made in Indonesia, which helps explain their lower price. So let's first talk about the tread design here. I've got a 9/16 socket here and a 3/8 socket, just to kind of give you an idea of the gaps between the treads. So the 9/16 socket fits easily here between the outer lugs. This 3/8 quarter drive socket fits easily between the lugs and the center. These aren't the most aggressive mud terrain you'll find. If your primary terrain is deep, sticky mud, you're probably better off with the Super Swamper, but these are definitely more aggressive than your average all-terrain. I live in the Midwest, so every trail around here is muddy. These have definitely seen their fair share of mud, and I can't say that I'm disappointed with their performance. This is a BF Goodrich KM2 mud terrain to compare it to. As you can see, the BF Goodrich has a very similar size of tread lug and spacing between them, because this is the same 9/16 socket and 3/8 socket. But the BF Goodrich has kind of a staggered lug design, so they're not all the same size going down and around the tire. So you have larger gaps and then you have smaller gaps on the BF Goodrich. And the Kanati has these sipes on the outside edge of the tire, which when they're brand new, they're sharp and they help with forward traction. The BF Goodrich doesn't actually have those. These tires have been to Moab 6 different times. And the corners of the tread blocks, as you can see, are pretty worn down from the slick rock, but they still work great and they still climb the terrain just fine. I've even taken these to Colorado and they work great in the rocks there too. And then every kind of rocky terrain I've done around here, they've handled it just fine. There's quite a bit of sand in Moab also, and in sandy washes in the dunes. I've never had any trouble with these tires. They've never gotten really stuck or buried down to the axles. I don't have enough horsepower to do them justice in the dunes and get any real air, but as far as I could tell, they work great in the sand and I have no complaints with them. Just for reference, I run these between 6 to 8 PSI off-road. Sometimes I've run as high as 10, but generally speaking, I'm around that 6 to 8 range. So aside from rocks, mud, sand, I've used these in some snow, both in the mountains of Colorado and Utah, and then around here locally I've played in the snow in our test course in the backyard. And then beyond the snow, I've even taken them ice racing in Colorado. So they're not as good as a studded tire by any means. No experience ice racing, first time out there with these tires. I was actually able to win over half of the heats that I was entered into. So they're head-to-head heats where you race another car, and I won more than half of them. For whatever that's worth in ice performance, I'd say these are pretty good. If you remember the old Goodyear MTR, I'm talking about 20 years ago that the Jeep Wrangler Rubicon first launched with, you may think, man, that tread pattern looks just like the Goodyear MTR. Well, I happen to have an old Goodyear MTR in the exact same 35 1250 15, so let's compare them side by side. So there's no denying there's a striking similarity between these tread patterns, and since the Goodyear predates the Kanati by a decade or so, I think we know who copied who. That said, the treads are not exactly the same. The Kanati, the tread pattern is basically the same all the way through the tire, but the Goodyear has every 5th lug or so is this larger block on both the inside and outside. So the Goodyear has fewer gaps in the tread than the Kanati does, meaning the Kanati has more open space than the Goodyear does, at least in this size. Also, the sidewall treads are not exactly the same. The Kanati has kind of a tribal tattoo pattern, for lack of a better term, and the Goodyear has these U-notches all the way around it. So it's not a true clone of the original Goodyear MTR, but if you're a fan of this tire back in the day, you may be a fan of this tire today. Now, in terms of durability, I don't put a ton of road miles on these because it's not my daily, as you can tell, and I don't really know how many miles I have on these tires because my speedometer and odometer are off by quite a bit because of the Samurai transfer case and its underdrive, the gearing, all that sort of thing. But I will say that I do drive this when the weather's nice. I'll commute it to work, and it has a spool in the rear. So the spool definitely wears the tires more than otherwise because every corner involves chirping and squealing around the corners. But this one probably has the most uneven wear. As you can see, there's still some grooves on this side, but not over here. I lined this vehicle with a tape measure in my shop. It's not put on an alignment machine whatsoever, and that's about the most unevenness in the wear. Every trail in the Midwest has, sticks and roots and whatnot. I'll throw some photos up on the screen of a time where I smashed a tire and wheel into a stump, and the tire did not get punctured. It actually shoved the stick between the tire and the wheel, and it still held air. So in terms of puncture resistance, I'm gonna say they're pretty good. That said, one time in Colorado, there was a sharp rock sticking out of the side of a ledge, and it cut one of the sidewalls. Now, I don't know if any other tire would have done better, but these only have a 2-ply sidewall. Something like this BFG, though, has a 3-ply sidewall, which may be better in a situation like that. But that one sidewall is the only time I've had trouble with these tires in, like I said, over 5 years of running them. The tread doesn't really have any chunking to speak of. I had to search each tire pretty thoroughly to find an example of chunking to show you. Some of the tread blocks have cracks at their base, but they're still holding strong, haven't popped off or anything. At the time of filming, you could buy a set of 4 of these 35, 12, 50, 15 Kanati Mud Hogs for under $800 shipped to your door. So that's less than $200 a tire all day long, and it's not hard to find them at that price. A comparable BF Goodrich or Goodyear is going to run you about $350 a tire. So $150 a tire, that's $600 more for a set than the Kanatis. So even if you puncture a sidewall like I did and you have to replace one of the tires for another $200, well, that's still a savings of $400 on the set, which is pretty substantial when it comes to a set of tires that you're going to take out and beat up off-road. So overall, given the fact that I've had good experience using these tires on rock, mud, sand, even ice, and there are substantial savings over something like a BF Goodrich, I would not hesitate to buy another set of these tires with my own money, and probably will. So hope that helps you. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. If you have any questions about the Kanati Mud Hogs, put them in the comments below. We'll see you next time. Kanati Mud Hog MTs for under 800 of Kanati other rocky trails.